In the world of software development, API documentation is the unsung hero, the silent guide, and the secret to seamless integration. API, or Application Programming Interface, is the bridge that allows different software applications to communicate with each other. But how do developers know how to build and use this bridge effectively? Enter API documentation. This documentation serves as a comprehensive guide to the functionalities of an API. It's like the instruction manual of a complex machine, detailing the ins and outs of what the API does, the resources it exposes, and the actions it can perform. Think of it as a roadmap, providing clear directions to developers and helping them understand how to interact with the API. Without proper documentation, developers are left to navigate the complexities of an API blindly. It's akin to assembling a puzzle without the picture on the box, a task that can lead to inefficiency and frustration. Imagine trying to assemble a complex piece of machinery without an instruction manual. That's what integrating with an API without documentation is like. API documentation is a beacon of clarity in the often convoluted world of application programming interfaces. It's like a blueprint for developers, a detailed plan guiding them on how to make the API and their own system work in harmony. It lays down clear instructions on how to make requests, kind of like sending a letter. You need to know where it's going, what to put in it, and how to send it. In the same way, API documentation tells you what parameters to include in your request, much like filling out a form with the right information. But it's not just about sending requests. It's also about understanding responses. Just like knowing how to read a letter you've received, API documentation helps interpret responses, making sure you know what to expect and how to respond in turn. API documentation streamlines the integration process, reducing the time and effort required to get systems working together. APIs communicate in their own language, and their error codes can be as cryptic as hieroglyphs without the right guide. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces don't quite fit. Frustrating, isn't it? That's where API documentation steps in, serving as a Rosetta Stone to decipher these cryptic error codes and messages. It helps developers understand why their requests might have hit a roadblock and provides insights on how to troubleshoot effectively. But it's not just about solving puzzles. APIs are gateways to sensitive data, and we need to ensure that only authorized access is granted. API documentation outlines the authentication mechanisms, whether it's API keys, OAuth tokens, or other methods. It's like a trusty security guard, making sure that developers know how to authenticate their requests properly, keeping unwanted intruders at bay. Proper documentation ensures that developers understand how to troubleshoot effectively and authenticate their requests properly. API documentation is not just a guide, it's a mentor, teaching developers the best practices for using the API effectively. Like a seasoned coach, it offers tips on topics like rate limiting, pagination, data formats, and naming conventions. It's about writing efficient, maintainable code that aligns with the API's design principles. The mentorship doesn't stop there. Good API documentation provides vivid examples, demonstrating how to use different endpoints or features. It's like having a seasoned developer beside you, showing you the ropes, making concepts easier to grasp, serving as a reference when you're implementing your code. Another critical aspect of API documentation is versioning. Like any technology, APIs evolve over time. Documentation typically includes information explaining how different versions of the API are structured and how to migrate between them. It's like a time machine, guiding you through past, present, and future versions of the API. This comprehensive information helps developers write efficient code, grasp concepts easily, and stay up to date with changes. API documentation is not a one-way street. It fosters a community of developers where knowledge is shared and insights are gained. In the realm of software development, community is invaluable. It's a space for developers to ask questions, share their experiences, and contribute to discussions. The bedrock of these interactions? Comprehensive, clear API documentation. This documentation provides a common understanding, a shared language, if you will, about an API's capabilities and constraints. It's the fuel for meaningful discourse, fostering a sense of camaraderie and collective problem solving. It's not just about knowing what an API does, but how to use it effectively. and how to troubleshoot when things go awry. The power of community lies in its collective wisdom, and API documentation is the catalyst that ignites this wisdom, transforming it into actionable insights and solutions. In essence, API documentation is the compass that guides developers through the complex journey of API integration, making it an indispensable tool in the world of software development.